it's been a while since I made a video, but I just thought I'd show off some of the stuff I've been doing lately with the Corolla. This is a rad sport patch I did last week that I kind of went pretty in depth on, at least in the method that I did it. So I've been using a lot of like collision repair techniques that I've been doing at work and some of the repairs now that I've been doing on the Corolla. So I just thought I'd highlight some of that stuff and some of the tools that I'm using in order for these jobs to be made easier for anyone else that's kind of getting into the restoration or customization aspect of the car. So what I'm just explaining here is what that tool is going to do and kind of how it crimps the lip. You'll see a little better in a minute how that gets explained, and I'll show off the tool. Just keep watching, you'll see. So now you can a little more clearly see what I was talking about, especially up here. This lip is what, you see the shiny line there is my scribe line from where my piece of metal will sit, and then the lip right above it is what I've created with that tool. So then, I'll show you here when I sit my piece up on top of there, that lip is still exposed, and then I'll weld my two pieces together, or at least this piece to the car, and I'll still have that gap in there to weld my piece, and it will sit flush when I finish, instead of having an overlapping lip that I'll have to try to grind down or fill with a little bit of putty in order to feather it out, I guess you would say. But I'll clamp that in place and see how it looks, and maybe get to welding it today. So I just went ahead and made a change I was thinking about. See on the inside there, I cut out a bunch now. So I have my original patch piece here that I have for the outside, but obviously it's going to go out there. But now I've decided, wherever my other piece went, oh, down there. This piece is now going to replace my intersection there. Let me see if I can set this up a little better and explain this. So this piece of metal is going to go in here where I have all that stuff cut out now, and replace that section too. I have to cut a bit off here and obviously straighten out my line, but I decided, just because the inside of this piece was still so rusty, that I don't want to have to worry about long term that coming back even into my new patch that I'm putting out here. It's just saves the headache down the road of having to ever repair other aspects of it into my current patches or anything. So I'm just going to do this, place everything now, make it pretty much brand new, and then, you know, probably get to working on the other side here as well. I have to unbolt this center. I have to unbolt this center subframe piece at some point in order to get everything right underneath that seam sealed and primed and all that. But like I said, I might end up welding a new piece in some of this side over here too. So we'll see what I do long term. But for now, I'm just gonna stick to my two pieces on this side and see how that goes. Ideally, when I fit it up, I'm gonna butt weld it so these two pieces will sit flush, and I'll weld that seam. I'll see if I have to weld the inside seam in order to make it seamless, or if maybe I can just some seams there on the backside to go ahead and fully penetrate with the weld. There's not really anything holes that I have to be concerned about. At the moment, it's pretty good. Probably I'm gonna weld around this hole just on top of the piece. Not really any distortion in the hole. Not that it's a huge issue, but it's just an odd shape that sunk in the hole area, so I'm going to weld on top. And not sink there on the bottom of it, so I'm going to move it out. An area where you really won't see anyway, so it's not a huge issue. So that when they weld it up and start doing that.
So I don't know what happened actually between the last clip and now that I'm putting on the outer patch here. You can see obviously, but I missed a bunch of clips of I actually epoxy primered the whole inside of the other patch after I grind it down with a belt sander. I used 60 grit disc just because it was a quick and convenient method I had. You could use other angle grinders or such, but I just grinded the welds down with 60 grit belt sander, and then I epoxy primed everything inside all up into the both back sides of the pieces that even the back side of the piece that I'm welding this patch here to, just to help seal everything for long term. And obviously once I'm closing it up here, putting this patch on, I don't have another method of accessing it other than sticking an oil coat or rust proofing straw into one of those holes and coating it that way. So that'll probably be what I do after it's painted, but other than that, the epoxy primer before I weld that patch on is my best method. I actually epoxy primed the back of that patch as well before I put it on there, so I could just have that added protection on all of the pieces as much as I could. Obviously I'm accepting the fact that there's a good amount of area where all my welds are that it's going to be slightly burned. Underneath some of that epoxy primer is a zinc weld through primer. Hopefully that kind of does its job, but again, it is an old car.
So I got it all welded up here now. If this will focus, there we go. It's a little dark still, but you can see fully welded. Underneath is all welded. Both sides, you can kind of see there. Welded. And I also finished all the spot welds along the back. So I'm gonna grind that down now with my angle grinder here. I'll probably change it over to like a 36 grit disc. This is a 60 right now, but knock that out and see what it looks like after. See if I have any pinholes or anything I might have to weld up. So I didn't get a clip apparently, but I got all this after it was cleaned down, primed up with the epoxy primer. All my welds on the inside are cleaned up and primed. And then all underneath, obviously the car's off jack stands now. It's kind of a obviously messy area for starters, but a bit of a tight area in here when spraying, and I don't really want to get a lot of overspray on the lens here, so that's why I don't really set it up while I do that. But it came out pretty good actually. There's a couple little like, see that flashlight, a couple little like pinhole spots and minor issues, but ooh, focus please. There's a couple little pinhole spots that I might clean down and touch up or spot weld or something like that. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to do some fiberglass over all of it just to fill in. There is still some random little minor spots that are sealed up, but that was from my overlap lip. There's a couple of small spots where my welds didn't quite seal right to where the crimp was. But most of it came out pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with how it looks at the moment. I sprayed all the way under to that tow hitch, or whatever you want to call that thing, just to re-clean all of this area for when I go to paint it. Might as well do it all now rather than have to worry about doing it in the future just before paint. So probably going to start that side some point soon. Make another video or a couple clips when I do that as well, but turned out pretty good, especially this inside to match the factory look. I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out. So got most of the bay in. Got most of the bay in primer now, so shouldn't be long before I get it sprayed looking like the color the car should be soon.